everybody loves the idea of signing Vladdy long term. So that's
I want to
yeah.
meet the Jays fan. I want to meet the hardcore Jays fan that hates that idea. Like,
Oh, I'm risk averse. I don't know. Small sample size. But yeah, there was some talk in chat of Vladdy going back to third base, and I hated that idea. What do you think?
I just don't wish to mess with how
I
good he
totally
looked
agree.
at first.
Absolutely.
And he was a picking machine. I really do believe if you give Vladdy another year at first, that he will contend for Gold Gloves at that position throughout the prime of his career. So
I mean, the biggest hole that I saw in him defensively was those like 110-foot fly balls.
yeah,
Where he just had
which
to
is just
backpedal 10
practice.
steps and go over the shoulder. Like, yeah, he'll get those.
That's
It's
experience, yes.
So, all right, you know what? Let's do the mailbag. You got a list of questions and comments lined up. I got a list of questions and comments lined up. We're rolling here. Camera's going. Let's jump into it.
Okay.
So, first question. This actually comes right from our live chat this morning. Jeremy says,
You know what? Before we get into it, I do just wish to address the fact that we were doing this mailbag throughout the season, and then we stopped because we were just like, how much stuff is going to happen? How interactive are people going to be over the off season? And you folks have been incredibly interactive, leaving all sorts of comments on YouTube, reaching out on Twitter at Walk Off Podcast, on Instagram, the Walk Off Podcast. So we talked yesterday, Adam and I, and we're like, you know what? Let's just start doing this again because we missed interacting with everyone. So here we are.
Absolutely. All right. No, that's a great preface here. So Jeremy from our live chat this morning says, does Nate Pearson make the rotation in April?
That is a fantastic question.
Right?
And I really wish that I had an answer. I think they're going to really push for him to make the starting rotation, but he's going to need to prove it. So he's going to need to have an incredible spring to break with this team out of spring training. And if he doesn't, and he just has a solid spring, I think they're going to do what they did with Alek Manoah last year, put him in AAA and make him force this front office's hand. Nate Pearson, depending on how he advances over this offseason, may be a bullpen piece. Obviously, this is not where Nate wishes to be. The money is in starting pitching. Obviously, this is not where the Blue Jays would like to see him land, as it is tough to come across guys with Nate Pearson's stuff. And I mean, we sat down with Anthony Telford, that is Nate Pearson's pitching coach, offseason pitching coach, since he was 14. Anthony Telford, of course, played with the Montreal Expos back in the 90s. And Telly was telling us that one of Nate's biggest problems is that he has had his blinders on a bit to just going out there and pitching and locating. And he has really wound up getting right into the analytics and the biomechanics side of things. And that he sits there on his computer analyzing his delivery. And Telly even said, he's like, that's great. Every bit of information that you can take in is fantastic. But if you're not locating, nobody gives a shit, right? And he was hard about it. He was harsh. Like, it was just like, it was kind of dad love. You could tell he was giving him, where he was just like, no, you gotta, if you're not hitting your spots, nobody cares what your spin rate is. So if Pearson continues to struggle with certain things like location, it does make him a much better candidate to be in the bullpen, because then he can strip down his pitches and rely on that fastball a lot more. Where, I mean, unless you've got an exceptional slider like Robbie Ray, it's really tough to be a two-pitch guy as a starter. If I was to bet money, if Nate Pearson makes this starting rotation out of spring training, I would bet against it.
I would say if he is in the Jays' plans to be a starter in April, I'd be shocked as well. I do think it's a make or break year for him as a starter. Some people have wondered, do we start him with the team in the bullpen or in AAA as a starter? I say for sure start him in AAA as a starter, right?
Yeah.
Stretch him out. Let's get him going for long innings.
You want Nate Pearson as a starter.
Yeah.
If he can start.
But like the transition from AAA starter to MLB starter is much like physically easier than going from MLB bullpen to MLB starter.
Agreed.
All right, let's move on to the next one. Enough about Nate Pearson. So Dan says, thanks for keeping baseball alive. My Canucks are an absolute toilet. Pitching, defense, and a bopper at third. That's what he's looking for this offseason.
Yeah.
Well,
Can't
step one for
with
the
that.
pitching. We're on it.
Step one for the pitching is done.
Defensively, okay, let's talk. Can we talk Marcus Semien for a quick second here?
Yeah, let's do it.
Marcus Semien, kind of in the same category as Robbie Ray, probably had the best year of his life. I don't expect a repeat season. But again, you know, third in AL MVP voting as a career year for most guys. So I'm
also
not
was third in career. He was also third in MVP voting in 2019. So he has done it before.
He is great. And I was getting a lot of flack in the live stream because I was saying I don't think the Jays should go out and just throw money to bring Marcus Semien back. I was also saying that a lot of his stats may have been propped up by the lineup he was a part of, right? I don't know if he's a 40 home run guy on the Washington Nationals.
Agreed, but one thing I will say about Marcus Semien is that within this lineup that is together right now,
yes,
he's a 30 home run guy and a 100 RBI guy for the next 3 years.
Yes, I will agree to that. But I think there are 6 other shortstops who could be 30 to 40 home run guys that maybe don't cost as much. Like Trevor Story hit 26 or 29 with the Rockies last year. Pencil him in all day for 35 plus in this Blue Jays lineup. And I think he'd be a way cheaper option. I don't want Trevor Story, Scott. We went down the Colorado shortstop route with Troy Tulowitzki a few years ago. I don't really trust bats who put up big numbers in Colorado for the obvious reasons. But Trevor's
like lefties who hammer the ball at Yankee Stadium. It's like, yeah, DJ LeMahieu is great, but how great is he?
Exactly. Like, but I'm saying, would I rather have Trevor Story for $20 million a year or Marcus Semien for $35 million a year? I'd rather have Trevor Story.
I mean, I hope they go out and they get Marcus Semien, but I don't particularly wish to see, like, if they can do 120, I'm all for it. If they need to give him the George Springer, that's a little trickier. Yeah. $150 million, especially if you start to look at this lineup and understand that some of these guys are, like even Vlad, we talked about it earlier. Vlad and Teoscar are arbitration eligible right now and are probably going to get $20 million each for 2022. So this is starting to become an expensive lineup, and I think Rogers has the money, and obviously Shapiro and Atkins wouldn't even be in Toronto if they were not promised when they left Cleveland that they would need to put in all that painstaking groundwork to rebuild a team again after they already did that in Cleveland if they weren't guaranteed that they were going to be able to spend money and keep guys. However, there's always going to be a cap. There's even if the Jays can spend right to the luxury tax, right, and $210 million or whatever it is, they're not going to spend over that, and then you still need to be smart about it.
Mm-hmm. No, exactly. All right, so last week we talked quite a bit about Gabrielle Moreno and him moving to third base potentially.
Yes.
We've got dozens of comments about that idea. Some love the idea, some hate it. Let's start with a skeptical one. So this is from Chris. He says, the movement to third base on a regular basis would be outstanding, but it is also a big concern. Based on a few good Arizona Fall League games at third base, can the Blue Jays really say he's ready to play the position? If Toronto wants to commit Moreno to third base, he's going to need some real time at the position.
Yeah. I mean, I love it.
Look,
Chris truly is nailing it here. There are some concerns about moving him to third base. And I mean, we watched what happened to Cavan Biggio, a guy who is incredibly versatile with the glove and was able to play almost any position. And we saw how he struggled at third. The hot corner, they call it that for a reason. And yeah, there would be some growing pains there. But would putting him at 21 there and letting him go through those growing pains be worth it for what we would get out of him at 25? We're not fortune tellers, but I would say probably.
If we don't get Jose Ramirez at third because the plans, the big master plan is to have Gabriel Moreno make the transition, I don't necessarily think he is our starting third baseman on April 1st, right?
No.
But he was drafted as an infielder on the left side. I think he was a shortstop when we drafted him.
Yes, he was.
We converted him to being a back catcher. So this isn't someone who came up through high school, through college as a catcher, and now we're like, wow, we have this long jam at catcher, let's do something crazy, right? Like this. He does have it. And I think you're right. Growing pains at 21 for a big payoff at 24, 25. I mean, how much worse can he be than Cavan Biggio at third base?
And to take the other side of what Chris said here, I mean, there is going to be growing pains at catcher as well. And we have talked about this before. Catching is probably the most difficult position in baseball to master. And we have had guys on this show who have straight up said it takes 5 years of big league catching to be able to call a game to an elite level.
Yeah.
And do you know who's 5 years into their catching career right now? Danny Jansen. Who's 25 years old.
Hines here in the chat just says, Moreno is an infielder. We need to stop acting like we're moving Buster Posey to third base. And I think
it's true. And I agree with him. That's a great point. That is a great point. He grew up as an infielder. So we're not putting him on the moon.
No, exactly. So comment on that video where we asked for suggestions of any minor league prospects that people wanted us to try and reach out and try and get for interviews on the show. And Scott McCutcheon says, Gabriel Moreno.
Yeah.
So
we got to brush up on our Spanish, buddy.
Exactly, right? One prospect that we are close to setting something up with, though, is also having a very good fall league. Breaker. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Spracker?
Yeah.
Graham Spracker. So he's got a 0 ERA this season. 16 Ks in 10 and a third innings pitched. And he got the save in the All-Star game last week. So his stock is hot and on the rise, and we might be sitting down with him in the next week or two. So
there's a lot of comparisons between him and Jordan Romano, for those of you who are a fan of the Markham Madman.
The Markham Madman, absolutely. All right, last thing here from YouTube, and then we'll get to the ones that you have from Twitter and everything like that, Scott. So Detroit says, again, this is in regards to Moreno playing third. Hey guys, also no saying he can't play third and catch on certain days. So potential for him to start the game at third base, maybe a pinch hit for Danny Jansen in the 7th or 8th inning, and then creative defensive double swap to bring Moreno in behind the plate for the last couple innings. So.
And that does really align with the Blue Jays mantra of versatility, correct? Yeah. Like, to be able to have a guy who you would not normally start behind the plate, however, in a defensive switch, to bring in another bat off the bench, and then all of a sudden, like maybe, let's say Alejandro Kirk hits a double.
Yeah.
And now you're like, there's 2 outs, and we've got the slowest man on the planet on second base. Maybe you can bring in Gabriel Moreno, who has some speed to him, and trust that he can catch the 9th inning.
Yep. I don't know. A lot of excitement with Gabrielle Moreno. I really hope he doesn't get traded this offseason.
Yeah.
But all right.
We'll
All right.
get
You got
torn
some more
apart on
comments
that
here,
first
Scott?
video we release.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll go live 5 minutes after it happens, and we'll both be like, "What's happening?"
Exactly. Big meltdown. All right. Let's go to Twitter now. Are you ready with your Twitter questions?
Okay. Nope.
No, I've got them in my... You texted them to me, so I could fire them at you if you want.
Yeah, sure. Let's do that.
Look at this. Just full amateur hour, but we're going.
Right?
Okay, so from our Discord, which, by the way, join our Discord. There's a link in the video description here. Drinker of
Our
beer.
Discord is free, by the way, everybody.
It is free, yes. And we'll talk more about that at the end of the mailbag here. Some fun things coming up. So from our Discord, Drinker of Beer says, who do you think will be the starting and backup catchers for the Jays by the end of next season?
What a fun question. So I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to predict that both Reese McGuire and Alejandro Kirk are packaged in trades this offseason. I think that McGuire will be traded for a low-level prospect, perhaps, somebody in low A ball, just to get anything for him and to make room on the 40-man roster, which this team is going to need to do. I think Alejandro Kirk lines up really well with some of the needs of other teams, like the Cincinnati Reds or the Miami Marlins, who both have starting pitching available, which is a need of the Toronto Blue Jays. So I'm going to predict that Alejandro Kirk is on the way out. I'm going to predict that Reese McGuire is on the way out. I think Danny Jansen is going to be the starting catcher for this Toronto Blue Jays team. And then I think this front office is going to go out and get a veteran catcher to be the backup for this season. And I think that it's going to be very similar to 2015, 2016. Somebody in the ilk of Dioner Navarro. There's a name maybe some of you haven't heard in a while. But, you know, like somebody...
No, I love it.
You know, maybe a guy who's like 34, still has some catching left in him, super experienced, and can go in there and really guide this pitching staff.
Mm-hmm.
Danny Jansen's the man, and he's going to be the man this season. I think he has earned the right to be the number one guy, but I think there will be a seasoned vet back there rather than running with a guy with 6 months of experience, big league experience like they did last year with Kirk.
I like it.
What are your thoughts?
I think you're hitting the nail on the head. I think McGuire, I don't know if it's a low-level prospect. I think maybe a bullpen arm is something we can get. You know, something like when we got rid of Joe Panic or Rowdy Tellez, that kind of thing where,
yeah,
like, he does have value. He was a first-round draft pick. He's a left-handed bat. You know, he showed signs this year of being our best catcher at points, right? So, I don't know. I think there is real trade value, and I think we're going to be surprised by what we get back. But I do think McGuire's gone for sure, and yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Kirk is gone too. I think Kirk's bat is great, but his legs are such a liability, Scott. Anyways, enough about that. So moving on now. This is from Discord as well. Derek from Panama says, what do you think is the likelihood of having Berrios signed to an extension this offseason?
0.
Right.
I love that's a question.
That's amazing. I didn't even realize it until I started reading it. I was like, oh, this is funny. And then he says also, what about Teoscar, Bichette, and or Vladdy? Same question.
Well, I think that they're working on Teoscar. Obviously, he is the first of those three that were mentioned that are going to go to free agency. Teoscar has one more year of get the word out, Scott. Arbitration, and then he goes to free agency in 2023. As for Bichette and Vladdy, they are under control until 2025, and yeah, lock them all up.
Lock them all
the
up.
likelihood of it happening this off season, I don't know what it is. 30%.
Yeah.
Where do you land if you're going to give a percentage of locking even one of those up?
So tough to give percentages, but
yeah.
I don't know. Honestly, we kind of talked about it in the Jose Berrios video that we just did. But if Vladdy's going to get $20 million in arbitration this year, just lock him up.
Yeah.
Like, who are we kidding anymore? Like, only reason to not lock him up was to get some discount years up front. If we're not going to get discount years anymore, this is the best. I think right now is the best time to do it before we officially get locked out and we go, "Hey Vladdy, you've made no money so far. We might not even play next year. So if you get 20 million in
Let's make you some
arbitration,
cash.
yeah, if you're going to get 20 million in arbitration and we lose half the season, you're only getting 10 million anyways, and that won't pay your bills through the spring, right? Like, here's $500 million. Let's lock you up, and here's 20 million
Something
signing
I'm sure
bonus right now, right?
Something I'm sure Vladdy is really worried about is paying his bills.
All right. Well, let's move on from there. So, Jonathan in Discord as well says, "Will we see Gabrielle Moreno in a Jays uniform in 2022, or do you think he's going to be trade bait? At the least likely, the Jays keep him, but he only plays as high as AAA in 2022."
So I'm going to say he does see a Blue Jays uniform this year. I don't think he's going to be traded. Is it impossible he's traded? I don't think it is. I think this front office has already proved that they are prepared to move prospects if they can get back something controllable that they like. So in the scenario that we kind of already talked about of what if they can wind up prying Jose Ramirez and Shane Bieber from Cleveland's hands, then yeah, he's probably a guy who has to go in a deal like that.
But that makes us World Series favorites at that point, does it not?
Yes. So if we see Gabriel Moreno traded, buckle up. It's going to be a fun couple years.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right. So Phil in Discord, is this Down Under Phil?
No, I don't think it is.
Okay. Another Phil. We have a Phil from Australia. So a secondary Phil. Or a primary Phil. I don't mean to besmirch Phil. He's got a great comment.
We're not ranking Phils here.
That's a whole different episode. That's for Patreons only, where we rank Phils. Although number one has to be Phil Dunphy from Modern Family, but I digress. So Phil in Discord says, "What is the Calgary accent the host has? My friend was like, check out this podcast. This guy sounds exactly like you."
I don't know. Us prairie boys, we got a distinct accent, I guess. Yeah, I get that quite often. I'll go out east and they're like, "Where are you from?" I'm like, I didn't even know I had an accent. But it even gets more pronounced when I'm drinking. I'm all, "Oh yeah, bud. Oh, you got her. Let's do this."
I love it. All right, well, that's all I've got for comments today, and we're at the 25-minute mark, so we should wrap it up.
Perfect.
I do want to just touch on one last time. We do have Arden Zwelling Thursday afternoon. Lots to talk about with him. Hopefully some more Blue Jays news to get into. Mm-hmm. We are wanting to shout out the Discord again. It is free to join. And Scott and I are going to be doing a baseball movie podcast, which I mentioned in the live chat this morning. And it seemed like everybody was interested in it, Scott. So we are going to be starting with, do you want to, what movie we're starting with?
Yeah, we're going to start with Bull Durham, a classic. And so this is going to be one where it's just like an extra episode where we're kind of focusing on movies and not, I mean, it's the off season, right? So
need something to do.
Let's have some fun with it.
But yeah, the goal is probably like a half hour to an hour long chat. We're just gonna, I think you and I are both gonna watch the movie again this week, so it's kind of fresh on our brains. We're gonna take notes as we watch, and then we're gonna bring our notes to the table, and we're gonna argue about our favorite scenes and maybe some stupid stuff that's happened in the show and plot holes that don't make sense and everything like that. So gonna be a lot of fun. We have lots to talk about. We were going to do, I think the plan is to do like one of these a month moving forward.
Yeah.
And I think the goal is Scott's going to pick 5 of his favorite baseball movies. I'm going to pick 5 of my favorite baseball movies. And then we're going to leave 2 up to votes in the Discord, I suppose. So it'll be a lot of fun that way.
Awesome. And honestly, everyone who has been paying attention and watching the walk-off. We truly appreciate it. We're kind of a little blown away here. We're in the off season, and we're getting thousands of listens and views. It's wild. Like from a year ago where we were chugging along at like 40 listens, this is really, really cool, and we really appreciate everyone sharing their love of baseball with us. So you can continue to do so on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow us on Twitter at Walk Off Podcast, on Instagram, the Walk Off Podcast, as well as on TikTok. Thanks so much, everybody. Cheers. Go Jays.